Oh, what to do now? Oh, I don't know how to handle it. Who can I call for help? Well, this is a very common reaction if you are planning to start your entrepreneur journey. Because in this journey, you are going to face a lot of challenges, and most of the times, you will realize that your reaction was one of the few reactions which I gave earlier. Now, I have been an entrepreneur since 2012. In this journey of almost 10 years, I have had sufficient amount of successes and obviously sufficient amount of failures too. And this experience of almost 10 years is a power-packed experience. So I thought, since my channel is all about helping entrepreneurs and telling them how they can handle their financial situations more smoothly, let me crush down my whole experience into a video and tell you top 10 things that I've learned from this journey of almost 10 years. Now, these experiences are going to be a very strong mixture of financial learnings and personal learnings too. And I hope you've already subscribed to our channel, because we keep on bringing a lot of good content for entrepreneurs out there, and not just in finance field, but also in the fields of networking, in marketing, etc. So keep on, go ahead, subscribe to our channel, and let me tell you the first thing that I've learned from this experience. So this is the first thing that I learned, that just having a product is not sufficient. Having a great product obviously is the first basic thing that you need as to what are you really going to manufacture and what you're really going to sell. But to make that product worth it, you should have capital at least for the next 2 to 3 years. Now, on an average, it takes anywhere between 2 to 4 years for any business to break even. And break even, that means that you are not going to have any amount of profit before you hit your break even point. And that also means that there is going to be less cash flow in the business. So that is the first learning that you should have, that always have capital at least for the next 2 to 3 years. Now, if you right now are thinking it's so easy for you to tell it, Swati, like just manage 2 to 3 years of capital. I know, guys, it's not easy to manage capital for the next 2 to 3 years. And most of the times there will be surprises that you are not prepared for. So in such situations, you should have some helpline numbers. Now, helpline numbers, and most of the businesses in the first few years are funded by your savings, your friends, your families, money that your mother has saved, savings that your father has had. So these are most of the times the first fundings that any business receives. Now, I would not recommend that you take up all the savings that your parents have, because that is their retirement planning also. But the second learning is that you should have some helpline numbers, people who would be ready to support you in your journey. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. You're saying, okay, you said manage some helpline numbers, but I don't have that big family and my friends are really not my friends. So how do I get those funding requirements? So yes, there are banks available, but for that, you need to have a very strong accounting system. Now, yes, I get it. All of us are not champions of everything possible. Some of us are great at accounts, and some of us are great at technical things, and some of us are great at marketing skills. But if you think that your account skills are not so great, here are the things what you can do to manage them. First of all, take a very basic course of accounts as to what is balance sheet, what is PL. And for that, our channel has some great content where we have already shared videos as to how you can analyze your balance sheet in 5 minutes. How can you look at top 3 ratios through which you can understand how your company is doing. And there's a lot of content available. You can check out our playlist here that I've marked for you guys. Now, this is the first thing that you can do. And second, if you don't really have the time to spend to manage and know your accounts, please hire a very good accountant. Now, if you think that you don't have time to take up a course, you can probably go through the videos because it would take 5 to 6 minutes, but you can't dedicate hours to a course. What you can do is you can hire a very good accountant. Now, let me warn you there. I am a chartered accountant and I am a finance person. But when I started my business, I did hire an accountant to take care of my business, and I did hire an auditor to take care of the balance sheet of my company. But I was really disappointed because what I realized was that until unless I am involved in my accounts, until unless I take care of my finance and my accounting system, people are not going to do justice, because for them, you are just one of the various clients. I had to go through a lot of trouble to ensure that I don't land up making any mistakes in my accounts. Those guys didn't do justice. So as of today, what I suggest all my clients is that ensure that you have a very good accounting system, but you have to ensure that you have a very good MIS system so that you know all the red signals before any of your team member make a very massive mistake. You have all the red flags ahead of that. And so you can control the damage. You can ensure that you don't suffer so much of losses because of accounting mistakes. And there are n numbers of stories which tell you that how accounting mistakes can lead to big losses for companies. I mean, the world is filled with news like that. So ensure that your accounting knowledge is good. And if not, you can always hire an expert. Yes, you can always text us too, or check out our website at the Prime CFO, where we help generate MIS systems for the companies. Now, this brings me to the fourth point, which is everything is good, right? You would love to hire our services. You would love to hire an expert in finance field, but where is the money? So you have to ensure that your expenses are low. Now, when you hire an accountant, it was going to cost you anywhere around 30 to 40,000 rupees a month, or probably 50,000 rupees if you want them to take care of your accounts. And so it is very important that you ensure that your expenses are low, especially in the initial few years. Here are some of the tricks that you can take to ensure that your expenses are low. Ensure that your fixed expenses are as low as possible. Now, fixed expenses are mostly office rent, are mostly salaries, are mostly retainer fees. So all these things are fixed expenses which are going to incur even if you are not doing any sales. So the first thing that you have to ensure is that your fixed expenses are very low. You can always negotiate with your vendors and supplier of services to work on an hourly basis or maybe on a daily basis, and that makes it very economical for most of the times for new businesses. The second thing you can do for keeping your expenses low is that you can allocate a budget. The way you allocate your budget for your personal finance system, that is the same system you can use to ensure that your expenses are controlled in your company. You can allocate a budget that this is something that I have to spend on my fixed expenses. This is the maximum I can spend on my variable. And so every time your expenses cross that budget, you know that there is a red signal, and you can always go ahead and work on some of the costing to bring it down. So the idea is you should know what your company is incurring so that you can use that small amount of cash flow that you have for the maximum period possible, and hence reduce your stress in this entrepreneur journey. Now, the next thing that you should keep note of is that there is no salary coming to you till you break even. Until your company reaches or matches its costs at least, you mostly won't be able to withdraw any salary from your company. So that means it is going to be very difficult, as to there would be times you'll say, oh, I really need a pair of shoes, but I don't have money in my bank account. Where do I go? You cannot withdraw that money from your business, but because you have to pay salaries and vendors and electricity bill, etc. And you think, okay, that is much more important because my business has to continue to go on. Now, how do I buy that pair of shoes? So there would be days like that. So please ensure that you have covered yourself for the next 2 to 3 years. Or if you have someone in your life, have you had that conversation of them supporting you financially for the next 2 to 3 years till the time you hit break even? They can take care of house expenses, they can take care of medical bills, they can take care of the basic grocery bills and rents, etc. So this is something that you have to keep in mind, and ensure that you have that conversation if you are blessed with that person in your life. And it's totally okay if you still don't have that person in your life, but ensure that you are clear in your head here that this is going to happen, and am I prepared for it? Okay, now I know what you're going to tell me. Then isn't this scared enough? I've already scared you with so much problems that, okay, this is going to come your way, this is going to come your way. But before I tell you the balanced things that I learned, Let me tell you something that I really enjoy of my entrepreneur journey. The point that I'm making a difference in this world and the fact that I'm making my life better, I have been able to create something which is the source of livelihood of so many people. That is a beautiful, beautiful experience, and it is way above and way better than working for someone else. So, yes, this all is worth it. And so now, if I've made you smile, let me tell you the other thing that I learned. This is something that I learned very late, and I always keep telling, especially in my videos that I've done on this experience, that I wish I started doing this before, and that was networking. Networking is very, very important for entrepreneurs. Not only it is going to bring you sales, it is also going to get you a lot of support system. I have done few videos on networking. In fact, I've done one video as to what has been my biggest scare and mistakes of networking. If you're still considering whether you should be networking or not, just go ahead with it. You are going to thank that you started networking. How you choose the networking platform, which platform you choose, is obviously based on what you're really looking out of networking. But networking, you have to start because it is going to bring you the necessary push in your business that you are looking for. And yes, it is also going to bring you a lot of mentoring at times, which, believe me, is really needed, especially in the entrepreneur journey. So go ahead, do that. And if you're still worried whether you will be able to do it or not, check out this video, because by the end of this video, you'll realize if I can do it, you can do it too. Now, since you've decided to be in networking, these are the two things that I learned from my entrepreneur journey. And they're not really related to finance, but obviously it led to a lot of growth in my company. And that is that never be attached too much to your base initial idea of your product and service. There is always one basic idea when you start your company as to my product is about this. But a lot of times it's not your first product that the market really needs. It is the remodeled version of that first product. And so be open to remodeling your business, be open to remodeling your product. And yes, also at times be open to adding more products in your offering. Because when you are new in your business, you may think that this is something that your audience is really looking for, but your audience is actually looking for the version 1 of that product. Now, how is this going to help in your business being successful, right? It is going to diversify the risk. If you are just selling one particular product, all your risk is related to that particular product. Now, if that product fails by any chance, your business is not going to survive. However, if you have managed to create another product with it, a lot of times the second product hits better as compared to the first product. If I have put you in a thinking mode where you are figuring out, okay, what is the product that I have to add and what is the product that I can diversify into, it is going to take time. It is not one day job, but keep a note of it as you have to work on it. It brings down your risk, it diversifies your risk, and obviously increases your chances of success. Now, here are the last 3 things that I think were my biggest learnings till now in this entrepreneur journey. First, ensure when you are taking risks with a new business, and especially when it is with people in addition to you. So that means if you're investing in new businesses, if you're taking partnerships in place, you have to ensure that your roles in that business is very, very clear. Many times, businesses do not work because there were difference in expectations between partners. Now, don't expect that there would not be fights. Do not expect that there would not be arguments. There will be arguments because that's what business and all the chaos is all about. But you have to ensure that there are fields divided, that this is something this person is going to take a decision on, and this is something that this person is going to take a decision on, and what is going to be the profit sharing, what is going to be the capital investment, who is going to sell their share whenever there is an investor coming. There are so many things that you can take note of, especially when you are partnering with a friend, a family, or any person that you know. It looks very smoother initially, but whether it be a time where your business is not doing good, or whether it be a time where your business is doing fabulously good, in both these situations, your partnerships have to work very strongly. Now, I am of a very strong belief that partnerships are very good. When two people come together with different sets of skill sets, it works fabulously because you are bringing in completely different worlds with yourself. And so it becomes very beautiful, and both of you can bring in a great organization into place. But then you have to ensure that your team work and your division and your roles and responsibilities are clear. And yes, please put it on a piece of paper, because it just becomes a great reference point in both the stress situations that I said, when your businesses are not doing so great and also when your businesses are doing fabulously well. So ensure that you have into place, even if you're working with your father or even if you're working with your husband, wife, kids, etc. Please ensure that there is a document in place. Now, the next topic that I'm going to tell you is something that everyone will keep telling you. Take calculated risks. But how much is the calculated risk? No one really tells you. So as per me, this is what my calculated risk is. When I invested in my business, I ensured that I have a small amount of money left for myself, so that in case my business doesn't survive, I don't have to worry about my survival. My standard of living would have gone down really substantially, and there would have been great amount of chaos, and there was a good amount of chaos for the initial few years of my business. But I ensured that there's a very small amount of money which I kept aside, which was my survival money, or let's call that emergency fund. So that is something that you have to keep aside. Now for the balance, how strong you are about your idea. A lot of times you will be thinking that your idea is super great and it will work, but please note, there are a lot of people attached in your ecosystem. To understand whether the calculated risk that you are thinking is sufficient or not, do a proof check. Discuss your ideas with people that you really trust on. In fact, if possible, get a mentor. Our country is filled with the startup ecosystem, and there's some mentors which are offering their services for free because they just want to get attached with a good startup. So ensure that you get attached to a good mentor and do your proof checking with them as to whether your product is going to work or not, and then take that calculated risk. And before you take that final step, give yourself a deadline that if my company doesn't break even in this particular timeline, I am going to go back to my job. I am going to go back to my father's business. I am going to go back, look for a very well-paying job. So this is something that you have to give yourself a target. This, I think, as per me, is a great way to insulating your risk, because you know that after that point of time, you have got into a very high risk zone. And that is where you ensure that you survive well in spite of taking the risks possible. And this is what calculated risks is all about, that you know the risk that you're taking and you set yourself a maximum deadline to it. Now, the last thing that I learned. Now, this is something I was totally unprepared when I started working for my own company. You are going to face a lot of emotional stress, and you will need a very, very strong ecosystem around you. This could be family, it could be friends, it could also be your faith that you have, or a group of people that you follow. But you will need a lot of emotional support, because there will be times you would want to quit everything possible. There were times when I thought, why did I get into this business? Why did I quit my high-paying job and get into this business? I would have been doing so well there. Instead, I'm going to every person, every company and saying that please buy products from us. We offer this and that. So it becomes, it is not only challenging for your bank account, it does become challenging for your emotional mind, heart, every system possible. So it is very, very important that you have identified your support ecosystem. And it is also a good idea for you to tell them that, guys, my next 2-3 years are going to be difficult and I would need your support. Do you think you can give me that extra space possible and that extra attention possible, or that possibility of being rude to you guys possible. Whatever works for you, because you are going to need that. There will be time that you would want people to just come and tell you, hey, it's going to be okay. You've reached so far, you can reach the maximum. But ensure that you have ecosystem into place, because if you don't have that, the ride becomes much more difficult. And if you have that, it becomes much more smoother, because there are people to handle you and take care of you on your worst days possible, because there are going to be many. So that has been a very interesting video, because this brings back all my memories of this 10 years, and I can almost see in my head, if I close my eyes, I can see all the experience and the days I went through, and those difficult days where I went through. And yes, it is always beautiful at the end, but the journey is very, very difficult. So ensure that you have taken note of the points which, found a place in your heart, and you ensure that you work on it, because all my points, all the experiences that I had, I have offered a solution with it also. And yes, I would love the fact if you hit the like button and share your comments with us, because we put in so much effort of bringing this video to you, and we would love to hear as to what you think of the same. So till the next video, see you guys, and I'm Swati Singhania here.